just so unexpected.
It's one of those you had to be there moments.
You had to be there.
It subsequently genuinely did change everything about my life.
You had to be there.
Right, this week's episode of You Had to Be There, Keith Treacy is with us. Keith, we're getting calls there chatting in the ad break. How are you?
Yeah, chatting away, sorry. Yeah, all good, how are you?
You were saying this wasn't that easy in the end?
No, I've a very poor memory. Anybody who knows my history will know I had about 6 or 7 year period where I just went on the drink crazy. So it was quite hard to remember, but my friend Google dug me out of a hole anyway, and some memories in there as well.
Right. When did you play for Ireland? What years?
What years? See now that's a curveball. See, my memory is knackered.
I'll get your Wikipedia here.
Yeah, here we go.
2010 is what your Wikipedia says.
Yeah, well, I'll go with Wikipedia. It was all under Trapattoni. It was about a 2 year period, I think. I was in the Irish team and an awful lot of squads, but not so many caps.
And how close did you feel to getting games? Because none of the games you played are in your list. That's why I'm kind of asking about this.
Yeah, but they weren't great games. I think the only game I started for Ireland was against Northern Ireland in the Nations League, which wasn't great. But even the Argentinian game, I come on and Messi played, but you know it's individual performance, and Messi wasn't great that day. Di Maria was good, but not outstanding. And I thought I was close, but Damien Duff was hanging on for his 100th cap. And it was sort of like, it was never said to me that, oh, listen, as soon as Damien's done, you'll be in, because McGeady was there, Hunty was there, Liam Lawrence was there. There was an awful lot of good wingers, but I always felt that once Duff got to his 100 cap, maybe it would open up a little bit for me. But you know, as it happened, it didn't quite turn out like that. Okay,
so the criteria for this, for people who are just coming to this, is that great individual performances that stand out, and you had to be there. That's actually had to be there. So you picked 4 football and 1 boxing. We're going to start with the Republic of Ireland versus Brazil. This is Ronaldinho in 2004. This, I presume, is it Lansdowne or is it at Croke Park?
Lansdowne, yeah.
What do you remember about this?
It wasn't. I was at this game. The club I played for, Belvedere, used to sell programmes at the game. So we'd sell programmes, and about 10 minutes after the game kicked off, we'd get to go down and watch it. And I remember just some of the names being on it: Ronaldinho, Cafu, Roberto Carlos, Kaká, Ronaldo, the R9 Ronaldo, obviously. And like, it wasn't a great game of football. Ireland were there to try and get a result, but just Ronaldinho's movement and being able to take the ball under pressure. You know, there was, at that age, I was 14 and I was watching Ronaldinho, and he wasn't nutmegging people, flicking the ball over his head as he would do. He wasn't entertaining people. Just to have a player a yard away and say, yeah, give me the ball. It just opened my eyes to being marked and not being marked, and being able to get the ball when you can have the ball, and just how strong he was when he got it. You know, people were literally flying in to try and get him off the ball, and he was just bouncing them off him. And I think that was probably my first look at a real world-class player. And yeah, it stuck with me. Although his individual performance, like I say, it wasn't outstanding, there was just little things in it that I thought, if I could be able to do that, it'd go a long way to making me a player.
It's funny how watching football matches is totally different I find depending on where you are in the stadium. If you're at ground level, I always find it much more physically impressive. Yeah. Like it's a tactical and technical battle, and you can see space, and you're wondering why people don't shoot from much further out. When you're up high, you're like, just shoot.
Yeah, it looks easy.
Yeah, but when you're actually on the ground level, I remember being completely astonished when Ireland played France and Zidane was there. I was like, what's the big deal? But then you're like, oh my God, it's like so physically imposing, creation of space with almost no movement, just like a shimmy. And I suspect it's a little bit like that with Ronaldinho, where like, yeah, he's obviously very busy, and it's a much smaller, shorter running style, but the quick movements.
His force touch was unbelievable, and you know, as a player, you start to try and get ahead, and you think, well, if he's going to touch it there, I'll jump ahead of the touch. But he can control it with his studs, the outside of his foot. He just keep his body in the way and holds you off. And if you got a little bit too aggressive and tried to nick the ball, he'd just make an absolute show of you. He really would. So look, everybody knows how good Ronaldinho was. He was unbelievable, and there were so many players in that team, but he was the one that stood out as the entertainer, as the one who would, you know, nobody wanted to go flying into him because they know he would just make an absolute show of you.
And it was peak Ronaldinho. It was Barcelona Ronaldinho at that time as well. Like, it's funny, I think I was 10 or 11 at this match as well, and your memory sometimes plays tricks on you, but I remember an unbelievable atmosphere for a friendly. Yeah. And it's because it's Brazil, obviously, but it's funny how it's one of those games that will always stick out if you're at it.
Yeah, well, I remember, like I said, I finished selling the programmes about, say, 5 minutes, 10 minutes into kick-off. They tell you, lads, you can go and watch the game now. And as I'm walking around the one end of Lansdowne Road to get to the other end of it, the Bat Avenue end I was walking around to, there was just all these samba dancers with Brazil flags, and the atmosphere was unreal. And the game had kicked off.
Yeah.
But in the stadium, it was just bouncing. It was, like I say, for a friendly, it was really, really good.
Yeah. Next one is Liverpool against Blackburn. This is in 2009, in April 2009. Fernando Torres. It's Liverpool 4, Blackburn 0. But you are on the field for this one.
Yeah, thanks for that. I was on the field for this one. This was the Hillsborough disaster, the anniversary of the Hillsborough disaster. So we went out and we Stephen Warnock, a scouser that was playing for Blackburn, he laid the wreath, and we started Chris Samba up front, started me on the right wing. Keith Andrews played right back. There was an awful lot of people, square pegs in round holes.
Chris Samba's a centre back, right?
A centre back, about 6'6" centre back. So the plan was to get the ball out to me on the right wing. Being left footed, I'd come back and chip it to the back post, and Samba would be there, and we'd get runners into the box. So a great plan from Allardyce. So we were 1-0 down after 20 seconds in that game. But the goal from Torres, I think we kicked off, lost possession, gave possession to Liverpool. Carragher got the ball, chipped it into Torres. And Ryan Nelson, and I can't remember who the other centre half was, because Chris Samba was up front. Torres takes a touch on his chest. He's facing the wrong way, and he just puts the ball into the top corner. And after 30 seconds, you're thinking,
great plan.
Oh, this is going to be tough. But then they missed another chance, and I was thinking that was an unbelievable finish from Torres. And I was thinking, yeah, he's a decent player, but you expect him to score goals like that. He was, went for 50 million to Chelsea, Spanish international, but all of a sudden they got a free kick out on the right wing. I think it was Keith Andrews who gave it away, and the ball gets whipped in, and Christopher Samba's about to head it, and Torres just come and put him on his back and put the ball into the back of net with his head. And you're thinking, this Torres boy has everything. He can head it, he can score fantastic goals, his walk rate was good, and he was nasty as well. He would leave a couple of studs in on he as well. He had everything, and that was the one game I came away and thought, Torres is the real deal. He was really, really good.
Did that happen to you often as a footballer, where you're like, I have expectations, played against everybody, you've seen good players in training at various stages, I think probably by that stage you're already, or maybe just getting into the Ireland squad, so you certainly played international the whole way up as an underage, so you'd seen really, really top quality players. Were there many occasions where you're like, oh, he is actually special?
No, to be honest, like, I'd love to say it happened an awful lot that I came away thinking, oh, he was brilliant and he was outstanding, but it happened quite rarely. I was taken back by players and think, my God, he was outstanding. And even now, the Torres one is, he's outstanding, brilliant, played excellent in that game, but he had the backup of Xavi Alonso, Mascherano in the middle as well. So even when we had chances to hurt Liverpool, they had good defensive players on the pitch as well. But in terms of being knocked back, like I always think of Messi and Ronaldo, and look at Ronaldo put me back. He was obviously an outstanding player, so was Messi, but in terms of when I played against Messi in the Aviva against Argentina, he actually wasn't that good. He done an awful lot of walking around, so in terms of his individual performance, he wasn't great. But yeah, it didn't happen as much as you would think it might have.
Was there an aura about Torres?
Yeah, at that time there was a definite. Everybody was afraid of him. I remember sitting in the dressing room and speaking to two guys, all the older heads, and they were all scared of Torres. They all wanted to. Where's Torres from corner kicks? Where's he going to be from second balls? And obviously with Chris Hamber up front, you're thinking, just stay in the game, linger in. We'll play for set pieces. We'll get something, get the crowd quiet, and we're 1-0 down after 30 seconds. It was a great goal, and yeah, we got it right down that day, and it was mostly down to Torres.
And just reading the post-match comments here, I think there was a little bit of fear in the team, says Sam Allardyce, and he sounds like he was correct. We should have got tighter. Instead we just let them play their game plan. There'll be a lot of twists and turns yet, but they certainly believe they can do it. That's what Liverpool winning the title. This is under Rafa. Is that the Rafa Fax season? It probably is it?
Yeah.
09.
Yeah. Is it?
Themselves and United were going for United ended up winning the title, didn't they? 09. Liverpool were certainly in contention in this game, because this would have been April.
I can't find team sheets, but Daniel Agger scores as well, I think.
Yeah, he scored a cracker. He scored the third goal. It was a long range drive, a centre half.
Team here. Oyer, would he have gone centre half if Samba was
Andre Uya? Yeah, he'd have been right back. Yeah,
Robinson and goals, and Jive, Mokoena, Tugai, Andrews, Warnock, McCarthy and Juve. Yeah, it's a good Blackburn team. But look at the Liverpool.
Is that El Hadji Juff?
El Hadji Diouf, yeah.
On your team? What was that like as a teammate?
I didn't spend an awful lot of time on him, to be honest. He wasn't my cup of tea. Jufi was a very, very unique character. To sum him up, right, this is a quick story to sum El Hadj Diouf up. He went on, I can't remember which manager this was at on the Blackburn, but he went on loan to Rangers and he won the league with Rangers and he came back down. We were in the middle of a relegation battle, possibly going to get relegated, and Diouf drives in with a week to go in the Premier League season. The Scottish League was over, he'd won the league. He came down showing everybody his medal from Scotland, thinking we'd all think it was brilliant, but he got told where to go quickly enough. He was
inspire
unique.
my teammates with my medal. Look.
My medal from the Scottish Premier League is winning the relegation
I was busy
battle.
having crack while you're. How are your win bonuses, lads?
Yeah, well, he was all about the money. Very, very flash guy, but good player, but not for me.
You had Benny McCarthy in that team as well, and he's now doing serious things at Manchester United as forwards coach. I know the likes of Marcus Rashford speaks very, very highly of him. Are you surprised that he's gone on to that sort of successful coaching career, or was that always on the cards?
Possibly a little bit surprised, because I came across Benny at Blackburn, and Benny done really, really well for a while, but then he came out of the team, and again, I'm not sure which manager this is, if it was Allardyce or Ince or Mark Hughes, but he started putting a little bit of weight on, so he was thrown into the fat club, and he sort of had to dig his heels and lose a bit of weight. And Benny was Benny. Benny didn't change for anybody. He did what he did, and we never really got the best out of him. Hugely talented boy, but we never really got the best out of him. And like I say, when it's not that he was unprofessional, but Benny was Benny. He didn't change for anybody. So to say if we could see him doing what he's doing now at Manchester United, not really, because like I said, I didn't see him in that sort of light, because he was an outstanding footballer and didn't try it too much. But I think once you finish playing football, I'm starting to realise now, coaching and managing is a great way to stay within the game and feel involved.
The Fat Club, was it actually called Fat Club?
It was called the Fat Club, yeah.
Right.
There was no messing around. It was the Fat Club.
Right.
8 o'clock every morning.
And how many of the team would have been in the Fat Club?
Probably no more than a handful, maybe 5 at most.
So it was a serious enough thing to be in. Like, everybody knew about it.
Yeah, everybody knew about it. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. You would be on the rower, swimming, running, whatever it was, and then you'd have your training session, and then after your training session you'd be back into the Fat Club for another session, and you'd be getting your body fats done 2 or 3 times a week until it was where they wanted it to be.
Right. Were you ever in it?
Constantly.
Oh, right.
Always in it.
But not a pick on you?
No, when I first came over from Ireland, they said I was skinny. I was the fattest, skinniest person they ever met, because I was no fat on me, but I was chubby somehow.
Right.
And no muscle. But yeah, then I got a little bit of money and just started drinking, and it got a little bit heavier, and yeah, my talent mass an awful lot of it, but the sports scientists were never happy with me. I was a fixture in the Fat Club.
And if you could go back now, would you hire a nutritionist? Would that be like, when you get money, instead of going drinking, if you could spend that on like your body and science, what would you do?
I don't know. I don't know whether I'd get a nutritionist and all that, because when I come out of the training ground, I like to disconnect completely from the football. I think you need the mental rest, you need the physical rest, and I don't know, if I could do it all again, I would be an awful lot more professional. I used to think that I would play till I was 35, and then that'd be me, and I'd ride off into the sunset with all the money in the world. I just thought my talent would do that. I didn't realise the mental side would have to weigh up with me talent, and that was it. I just never had the mental side of the game down whatsoever. And for so many years people were saying you're so talented, you'd be grand. I never had the mental fight in me, and there was some demons that I obviously had to go and correct before I could move on. But yeah, looking back, I probably would have been the best thing to go and get a nutritionist and have all that stuff outside of the ground. But
or even if the club did it for you. Like, it sounds like your diet wasn't great apart from the drinking.
No, my diet was shocking as well. Yeah, with a couple of drinks on you don't want a bowl of pasta, do you? You end up with a doner kebab or something. But yeah, maybe that would have been the way forward. But you have to imagine, like, football's come on leaps and bounds since I finished. It wasn't like that. Very few people had. I think probably a couple of boys at United, at the big boys, had nutritionists at home. Yeah. Not your so-called lower teams wouldn't have been that deep into it.
Yeah, okay. So Liverpool versus Blackburn, that goal that Fernando Torres scored, I've just found it on YouTube. You can Google it. It is sensational. Next one is Leeds versus Preston. This is in September 2018. John Parkin scores a hat-trick. You're playing in this. You've moved to Preston at this stage. This is the next season.
Yeah, I've gone to Preston. This is the craziest game ever, and this is a real one. You'd have to be there because I don't imagine a lot of people would have seen this on YouTube and on the social media.
It's a 6-4 win for Preston against Leeds.
Yeah, we were 4-1 down at half time. It was a ridiculous game. Darren Ferguson was the manager, and I remember I set up the first goal. I had a shot, the goalkeeper parries it, and Parky taps it in for 1-0, and then all of a sudden, I think Steve Bruce's son, scored a header, and all of a sudden I'm in the dressing room and Darren Ferguson, we're 4-1 down and we're getting an earful, and the one thing he said after was, lads, we're not out of this. If we get the next goal we could win this, and we're all thinking, let's just not get beaten here too badly. But then we go out. I ended up scoring directly from a corner, and I did mean it. The manager used to tell me to shoot from corners directly, so I did it, and luckily I went straight in the back of the net. But Parky, when you look at his goals, he scores a tap in, he gets one on his chest, swivels, scores, and look at him there, like the heaviest footballer you've seen. I was in the fat club. I can only imagine what sort of club Parky was in. But he was an outstanding footballer, the most unprofessional, fat, heavy. He used to say when we were running, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. He wouldn't run for managers, he wouldn't do running sessions, but he turned it on against Leeds, and I haven't seen anybody play that well in Ellen Road, and I don't think anybody's ever scored 6 in Ellen Road. I think Preston are still the only team to do it.
Wow, okay.
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but as far as I know, we're the only team to ever score 6 there.
And look, Ellen Road at that stage, I presume the Leeds fans are still pissed off about the fact that they're not in the Champions League, because it's still in the memory of all the fans who were on the terraces sitting in their seats that this was a team who were in the Champions League semi-final 10 years previous. So it seems alien now that whole notion. But for that group, 4-1 up at half time and cruising against Preston, like, this is good times are coming back. But
and to be fair, that's what was going on in my head. That was, I think, probably my second or third time I played in Ellen Road, and I had that. I was thinking of Harry Kewell playing at Mark Viduka. I was thinking of all these boys running around playing in the Champions League, and it just had that. Even, I obviously haven't played in Ellen Road now in a while, but it just had that feeling of a special ground. And maybe that's just the way I was brought up. There's a couple of Leeds fans in my family, and yeah, Ellen Road is a special place for me. And to go and beat them 6-4 there, and there was some Christmas DVDs brought out as well from Preston. So it was a great game, and Parky to score a hat-trick was outstanding. Brilliant performance from him.
Did you score twice?
No, I scored once.
Okay,
you'll take it. What's the atmosphere like at Ellen Road for an away team?
It's brilliant. It's really good. I think it's like any of the big away games, like St James's, Old Trafford, anywhere, the Emirates, wherever you're going, you have to try and kill the crowd. It's a lot easier said than done, but when we went 1-0 up, the crowd started getting a bit iffy, but then obviously they blew us out of the water, and it's 4-1, it's bouncing again, and thankfully we managed to wrestle it back. And to be fair, like now I look at things from a coaching side, and for Darren Ferguson to be saying at 4-1, we're not out of this, lads, and we're all thinking he's a bit crazy, to go back and win it was excellent. And like I said, mostly down to John Parkin's hat-trick.
What was Ferguson like as a manager?
He was okay. He could be a bit tit for tat at times. I done a couple of things to annoy him, and he would be quite reactive in things, but he never let it linger too far. He would discipline you, give you the slap on the wrist, and then he would move on quite quickly. But the one thing that stuck with me was when he got sacked from Preston a couple of months later, and we had Danny Welbeck, Matty James, a right back as well, I think a right back, all from Manchester United on loan. And as soon as Darren Ferguson got sacked, all gone. Alex pulled them all out of the club the next day, and that was the best thing for Manchester United, though.
Yeah, so. Yeah, that came up in Roy Keane's when he was at the Broadcast Energy. That came up as one of those when he was mid Alex Ferguson rant. He was like, "Oh, what about your son?" It's like,
well, yeah, it's all true, because even in the winter that year, we would train in Carrington because our training ground would be frozen. So Darren would ring around and say, "Lads, we're training in Carrington today," and we'd get our own pitch in Manchester. And then as soon as
that was handy,
as soon as Darren lost his job, all them perks went straight out the window.
I've gone down an internet hole here on John Parkin's Wikipedia page. This is quite incredible. Like his diet during the day, never went to the gym, large portions, so tuna crunch sandwich for lunch, bag of crisps, pepperoni pizza, steak bake, and either a bacon and cheese turnover or a sausage bean and cheese melt. Full English before training as well, just to add into it. Known for his pranks and misadventures. Transfer deadline day, playing for Preston, he covertly changes his own name in teammate Chris Sedgwick's mobile phone contact list to the name of Sedgwick's agent, before repeatedly calling him from his own phone. Sedgwick excited that a big transfer move was imminent, but not to be. And there's also a story about a golf buggy crashing down a hill as well. Bit of a character, it seems.
Yeah, Parky was crazy. I'm doing a show with him next week in the Board Gosh under the Kosher coming over, and Parky will be there. He was a very, very unique character. I came across a couple of unique characters in my time, but like I said, it probably rubbed off on me. I'm looking at players like this that are the most unprofessional players, and they're going scoring hat-tricks in Ellen Road, and maybe I was attracted to people like that when I shouldn't have been. But great fella, great guy, and great player, but not a great professional.
If Leeds had won that day, they would have gone second in the table. And that 4-1 up at home, and you can see how, and they would have been like definitely favourites probably at that stage of the early part of the season to go back up. I don't know if they did go back up. I don't actually remember how long it took.
Like I said.
Right, so that's Leeds versus Preston. The next one is Sheffield Wednesday against Wickham. Mikel Antonio's playing.
Yeah. This is I went on loan to Sheffield Wednesday about, I think there was a month left in the season. I hadn't been playing at Burnley, and Dave Jones rings me, would you come on loan for the last month of the season, Keith? And I told him out straight. I said, listen, I'm not fit. I've been taking liberties with my fitness. And he said, listen, as long as your left foot works, we'll take you. And I went on loan. And I think we played Brentford. We beat Brentford the week before, and it came down. If we beat Wickham at home, we're automatically up. We'd pip Sheffield United to second place. So Wickham come, and I think Wickham were already relegated. And like on the Friday, we're getting phone calls from the police saying, get to the ground early. There's going to be 40,000 fans there early. You're going to be stuck in traffic. So we had to get there early. The place was bouncing. There was Lilos everywhere, beach balls bouncing around. It was unbelievable. And do you remember Gary Doherty, the Irish international?
Yeah.
He played centre half for Wickham, and Mikel Antonio played up front for us.
Right.
And I think Mikel was probably 18, maybe just turned 18, and he bullied Gary. He bullied Gary all over the place. And anybody who knows how good of a player Gary Doherty was, it was a tough thing to do, to bully him. And he scored the first goal, like you said. The fans were bouncing, but there was this air that we had to win. They were demanding that we won it, and Mick goes and gets us the first goal. It was a brilliant goal, and just the way he dealt with the occasion for such a young lad, I would have been probably 24, 25, and I was feeling the nerves, but for Mikel to react the way he did, play the way he did, and to, like I say, to bully Gary Doherty was not an easy thing at that level, especially at that age. And we ended up winning promotion after that game, and it just left a little note in my head that I think Mikel Antonio could be something special here, and obviously his career has gone on to prove that.
There's a pitch invasion afterwards.
Yeah, there was a pitch invasion. It was a little bit scary, to be honest with you.
I'd say, yeah.
I was on the right wing, and I think I got taken off with a couple of minutes to go, so I managed to just dart down the tunnel. But we came back out, and the fans were still there, and the beers were flowing. Brilliant. It was probably one of the best decisions I made, because I really didn't want to go to Sheffield Wednesday, because I didn't think I'd do myself justice, not being too fit. But when I got that feeling of the promotion, it made it all worthwhile, and just went to show how big of a club Wednesday were.
Did Dave Jones know you from before?
No, I never played for him, but he was adamant he wanted to take me. He actually told me, go and ring X, Y and Z, do your homework on me, I'll be the manager that you'll thrive under. And yeah, it was right. And look, I nearly went to Sheffield Wednesday after it. They put a bid in, but it wasn't what Burnley wanted, so it didn't happen, and I ended up staying at Burnley. But really, really enjoyed my time, and it left a little mental note about Mikel.
And do you have any regrets you didn't sign for Dave Jones?
I wanted to at the time. I definitely wanted to go to Sheffield Wednesday. Like I played for Sheffield United already. I knew the city. I was comfortable in the city, and the fans seemed to take to me after getting promoted. I thought it was all going to be good, but look, I had a meeting with the Burnley chairman at the time, and Eddie Howe was not far from going back home. I think his mother was ill at the time, so there was a new manager going to be coming into Burnley, so they were reluctant to let me go with Sean Dyche coming in the door. We didn't know it was going to be Sean Dyche at the time, but we knew a new manager was coming, so I think they wanted to give a new manager a crack at me to see if they could sort me out.
So and you ended up liking Dyche.
Yeah, it worked well for the 2.5 years I think we were together. It worked really well. Like I said, I was at a time where I was actually ready to go. I was finished, and Dyche just pumped another 2.5 years into me.
Right. That sounds like a bit of a Lampard-Tuchel situation at Sheffield Wednesday that season. Gary Megson has the job, 3 defeats in a row in February, gets the sack, with promotion still in the balance, but then Dave Jones comes in. wins 10 of the last 12 games. And
Milan Mandaric was the chairman.
There you go.
The previous guy who obviously had taken Harry Redknapp to Portsmouth and won the FA Cup with them, and then left. And then I think there was some investigations. I need to do a bit of reading before I talk about them.
I met Milan Mandaric once. It was after this game. I was walking down the tunnel, and all of a sudden the lads had said, we're going to Marbella for a couple of days as a celebration. So I thought, the championship was still going. Burnley season was actually had another week to go. So I thought, Eddie Howe rang me and said, you need to come back to Burnley for the last week. And Milan Mandaric actually said, no, he's going to Marbella with the lads. So yeah, I had nothing but good things to say about Milan. Got a free trip to Marbella.
Did he put you up in, was it his gaff or was it a hotel?
Oh no, it was a big 5-star hotel, couple of days, all expenses paid. We
had
really enjoyed it. Yeah. Well, hence I barely remember the football match, so it was a really good couple of days.
Okay, so your last you had to be there is actually a fight between Carl Froch and George Groves. This is the first fight in Manchester in 2013. It's kind of hard to remember just exactly how big the Froch-Groves fights were. It turns Froch into a kind of a global superstar in boxing.
Yeah, this I love me boxing. I'm not an expert, but I love watching boxing. I bought ringside seats for this. I paid through me nose for 2 seats. Brought one of my mates over from Dublin. I can't remember. I was playing a game during the day, and obviously this was at night. And I turned up, and I couldn't get me tickets. Couldn't get me hands on me tickets to the ringside tickets. So I had to, obviously with me mate being over from Dublin, Keith, I had to buy more tickets outside and ended up sitting in the last. I had me back to the wall. At the MEN. But look, it was it was like something out of a Rocky movie. It really was. I remember George Groves in the build-up saying, I'm going to meet Froch in the centre of the ring and I'm going to land one on his chin. And Froch just laughed and said, if you do that, I'll kill you. And George Groves did it. Because I was sitting at the back, there was a load of Cockneys in front of me, all George Groves fans. And the whole MEN is booing when he comes out. The whole MEN, there's probably 3 or 4 Cockneys in front of me cheering for Groves. By the end of it, the whole MEN is giving George Groves a standing ovation, even though he got beaten. He was brilliant. He dropped Froch in the first round, I think it was, late in the first round, unsteady on his legs. Everybody's thinking the ref's going to stop it. The ref lets it go, and George Groves outboxed him for the whole fight, and then Froch gets on top late in it, and I still think it was a premature stoppage. And look, it was a brilliant fight, but George Groves that night didn't know an awful lot about him, but he was outstanding. He's counter punching and just the way he went about things.
They stopped it in the 9th round.
Yeah, I thought it was a very, very premature stoppage. I have to be honest. I think in that fight, Froch was in a lot worse situations and the ref let it go. Groves got into a little bit of a sticky situation and the ref was very keen to jump in and stop it.
The 3 judges had Groves ahead, so 78-73, 76-75, 76-75. So clearly Groves was heading towards victory when it's a really controversial finish to it.
Yeah, like I said, it was a brilliant fight. The best thing was the atmosphere, Sweet Caroline and all that started coming. The atmosphere is absolutely bouncing. And then when Groves hits Froch on the chin and he goes down, you could hear the pin drop. For about 5 seconds, the whole place just went silent. And then it burst into a huge atmosphere again. And like I said, everybody, with it being in Manchester and George Groves being from down south, Froch obviously only being from Nottingham, everybody was on Froch's side, but it was like something out of a Rocky film. It really was. Booed in and cheered out. It was excellent stuff, and his individual performance that night was outstanding.
I think he'd been playing Bristol City that day. Would that make sense? I'm just trying to look the
that would make sense, yeah. If that's why I was late to go and collect me tickets.
I mean, I haven't paid through the nose. Did you ever? I presume you don't get the money back. There's just 2 empty seats at ringside.
No, well, I had to collect them in a hotel close to the MEN arena, so I went to the hotel and they were, no, they're gone.
Oof.
I said, well, who do I ring? What do I do? Go to the MEN, you might get them there. No. Thankfully a tout was behind me and I managed to get some tickets, so I seen the fight anyway, but yeah.
Or were you a Froch fan in advance of this, or just a boxing fan generally?
I was just a boxing fan generally, yeah. Like I said, I didn't go to an awful lot of sporting events, but I wanted to take this in because this in the UK at the time was built as the Battle of Britain. Yeah. Everybody wanted it, and the build up was excellent. Groves really sold the build up to it when he was saying, I'm going to come out and I'm going to do this, and Froch laughing at him saying, you don't have the minerals to come and do this with me. If you do, I'll kill you. And George Groves he'd done everything he said he was going to do in the build up to it, which was outstandanding.
Froch obviously very charismatic, famous now for thinking that the earth is flat. That came out in Matthew Macklin's podcast the last week or two. So he's absolutely convinced.
Andy Lee was on the undercard. I'm just looking here. Beat Ferenc Hafner and TKO in the second round. That's some undercard. You've Anthony Crawler, Rocky Fielding, Scott Quigg, Luke Campbell and Andy Lee. among the undercard as well. So it's not a bad night's boxing.
No, well, I only seen the main event. To be honest,
To rub it in, Keith. Sorry, yeah. For those who were there,
they all sound like great fights. But I didn't see any of them. The main event was excellent. Like I said, I turned up a little bit late having the game, but outstanding memory, great memory for me.
You were saying off air before we came on that you didn't go to that many sports events. It was mainly gigs. Big music fan?
Yeah, always music. Loved I have such a random thing. I'm going to see Blondie, going to see Lionel Richie, from Drake to. I bounce around all over the shop. Really, there's no real genre of music for me. It's a little bit of everything.
Good opportunity when you were a professional footballer, I presume, to get decent tickets.
Yeah, well, the company staff, would your agency and stuff would have boxes in the MEN, would have boxes in certain places, so you just put your name down and you end up getting into these places. But very few sporting events. I don't think many footballers go to footballing events, do they? I think it's a little bit like watching paint dry if you're a footballer.
You've had enough of it all day in, day out.
Exactly, and then you want to relax. I don't think footballers watch football to relax.
If we were to ask you to do your had to be there gigs, any specific ones stand out?
Probably Michael Bublé.
Right.
The MEN again. He was absolutely brilliant. But again, another I brought my wife and I was in row B. Thought it was excellent. Again, paid through the nose to sit in these seats. And he sang 2 songs on the stage, and they built another stage down the back of the MEN, and he went and sung down there. Went to turn and faced the other way. And I was thinking, I'm going to stop paying through the nose for these tickets because
then you're in row Y at that stage. Yeah,
absolute lottery.
Turns out you're a romantic at heart with Michael Bublé.
Yeah, I love a bit of the old slow stuff. Yeah.
There you go. All right. You learn something new every day. Keith Treacy, you had to be there. That was brilliant. Thanks a million.
It was so unexpected.
It's one of those you had to be there moments.
You had to be there.
It subsequently genuinely did change everything about my life.
You had to be there.